I'm going to try to talk to Officer John Lacey for our website as soon as he gets off the phone. But again, we've been following this for the last 45 minutes or so. And again, as you see, a very active scene here in the parking lot at Oak Park Mall. I'm Robert Townsend, only on 4. I'll tell you about the connection between this motel and one of the suspects now charged with shooting a local police officer. So the whole thing started on Monday when police say the boy told investigators he found the gun while walking home from school. They also say he told officers he forgot the gun was in his backpack when he came to school. The mighty well hit the south side of St. Joe extremely hard. Just look at this mess. I mean, the water is just inching up all over this place. We're in the popular business district. Flash flooding all around, saturating this popular spot. Residents and city officials, as you can imagine, just want some relief. The last 2 days have been extremely emotionally and mentally draining for family and friends of Navy Petty Officer First Class Charlie Finley. Now they're all holding out hope tonight. Finley will soon be found alive. So I've been out here in this neighborhood for the last 8 hours. Right now they are still trying to figure out exactly why that man allegedly fired at them and at this elementary school. Police now say they believe the same young man seen here wrapped in a blanket on a stretcher is the same guy who allegedly fired off a gun during 2 terrifying scenarios.
We don't know why he shot.
Investigators say around 1:30 this afternoon, a teacher's assistant at Highlands Elementary School was outside with a student when the employee heard what sounded like gunfire. Everyone rushed inside the school, which immediately went on lockdown.
No one was hurt in the building, and you just try to reassure them that we have a procedure. Our staff was amazing in terms of following that and getting kids inside and keeping them calm.
After the lockdown was lifted, nervous, visibly upset parents rushed to the school to pick up their kids.
I just wanted to keep my child safe.
This worried dad couldn't wait to see his child.
People didn't know what was happening, and some people heard, the kids were inside very scared and crying.
Police say the suspect fired at least 5 gunshots. 1 bullet hit a concrete wall in front of the elementary school. Another one shattered a window on a minivan. Fortunately, all of the students, teachers, and administrators, those shaken, were all safe. More than an hour later, police say they received 2 more 911 calls, including one from the suspect's mother.
A lady comes out, advised her child had a firearm. Officers rushed over to the home. That's when the gun fire was exchanged.
You guys need to get back.
Police say they ordered the man to drop the gun, but when he refused, they say he pointed and fired at them. Officers then fired more than a dozen gunshots. The suspect shot in his leg.
I don't know how many times he was struck, but I know that he's struck and he's in a local hospital.
We saw a man step out of that house right there, and it looked like he was holding a gun, and then there were shots fired.
Now, an officer just told us school windows here were also shot out. Police say the suspect is in his 20s. Right now, he is still in jail. Tomorrow, prosecutors are expected to file several charges against him. We're live in Mission. Robert Townsend, Fox 4 News. Yeah, this is the state manual inspectors tell me they used to determine, again, more than a half dozen buses back here at this company have safety hazards. Yvonne McNutt has nothing good to say about KC Premier Transportation in Kansas City.
Their work ethics are horrible.
McNutt says from November of last year until early March, she worked as a bus monitor for KC Premier. But after 5 months... Why did you quit?
Because it was cold. It was so cold on that bus, and I was not going to do it again.
McNutt says she repeatedly told KC Premier's managers the bus she rode every day with students from Frontier School of Excellence was without any heat on many bitterly cold winter days. But that's not all.
One of the back windows wouldn't stay up. They had issues with the defrost not working. I had to scrape the windows as we drove.
She shared these cell phone pictures with us.
The doors wouldn't shut, which kept the arms from working properly. They had leaky windshields. They had it taped to hold the windshield up. And a lot of this stuff that I complained about, they kept saying, we'll get to it, we'll get to it.
In early March, McNutt says she had a dangerous close call while riding a KC Premier bus.
The brakes went out on one of the spare buses.
McNutt says as she and a female driver traveled southbound on the Paseo, then turned on Truman Road, the brakes on the bus suddenly failed.
The driver actually had to pull over and call for help.
She says thankfully the driver coasted through the traffic light just in the nick of time.
The brakes had gone to the floor. She couldn't drive it, and they sent a mechanic out there to get it, to come and get it and take it back, so we didn't get to do a route that day. I thought about these kids on this bus.
There were no children on the bus that day.
Do you think this company is putting children's lives at
Yes,
risk?
absolutely. That's why I got so upset and I started calling around.
McNutt quit in late March, and a few days later, inspectors with Missouri Highway Patrol conducted an annual inspection at KC Premier Transportation.
We inspected 19 buses out of their 41 buses.
Sergeant Bill Lowe says the state took 13 of the company's buses out of service due to serious safety violations. Those violations ranged from an emergency door not opening to a stop arm not working.
If they have any fuel leak, if there's a brake problem, if the tires are bad, then they're going to be placed out of service.
While another 6 buses had lesser problems, such as no heat, Lowe says KC Premier's drivers could still drive those if the company would fix the problems within 10 days.
For 19 out of the 19 buses to have some sort of defect or to be placed out of service, that's alarming.
I've shown you the reports, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Ijaz Mahmood owns KC Premier Transportation. For nearly 2 years, the company has mainly serviced charter schools in the Kansas City area. The KC Premier website boasts that it transports 1,000 children to and from school every day. Mahmood would not show us the recent state inspection reports on his buses on camera.
It's like this bus 38. This has the crossing arm that comes out when the defrost fan is running.
He insists the state examined 20 of his buses and put 8 out of service.
Remaining buses, they had some minor issues. They've been taken care.
What's more, Mahmood says buses the state calls unsafe are now idle in KC Premier's parking lot with yellow stickers on their windshields, being repaired, and are not on the roads. So parents and the public should not have any safety concerns?
No safety concerns. Absolutely not. We make sure the drivers are safe. We make sure the students are safe. And yeah, it's no big deal.
It is a big deal to Raquel Pacheco.
Ridiculous? What is going on?
Pacheco says her 2 daughters will no longer ride KC Premier buses to Guadalupe Center's high school until she's convinced the buses are safe.
No more buses. I mean, we are trusting these buses to take care of our kids, and crappy buses now? No, come on.
Now, state inspectors will be back out here in 3 weeks. They say if the problems on those 19 buses are not corrected by then, KC Premier will be cited. Inspectors tell me they will also check out the company's 22 other buses. Now, the owner here says he is not worried. He says he will definitely be out here during that second inspection. Of course, we will definitely stay on top of this story. The pastor here at Apostolic Revival Church in South Kansas City says it's been 5 days since a teenager came here to his church and made some serious threats against his congregation. Now, that teenager also says the pastor threatened his life. Were you disrespecting the pastor?
No.
Was your son ever disrespectful or refusing
Never.
to leave that church?
Never.
The things that he said, I have never in my ministry heard anyone defame God, defame the ministry, defame the church like he did.
They are serious allegations made by everyone involved. 17-year-old Quentin Graham says last Thursday he visited Apostolic Revival Church with his mom and young sisters for teen night. Were you having a good time in the beginning?
Yeah.
But while Pastor Frank Ross was preaching, Graham admits he made a comment that touched off a firestorm at the small church that's been around for 29 years.
All I did was say, we are sheep and not goats, and that hurt it.
The teenager's remark comes from a scripture in the Bible.
Just my words just hurt him. Just by saying we are sheep and not goats. That's all I said.
He was laughing, he was jeering, he was speaking to his sister. He spoke out loud when we asked him to be quiet.
Pastor Frank Ross says when Graham refused to be silent, he asked several of his ushers to remove the teenager from the church. Graham says he tried to walk out on his own, but then he says at least 10 men and teenagers grabbed him.
They grabbed me, grabbed my arm, grabbed my shirt and stuff.
None of our men assailed him, but this young man did assault our ushers.
When the scuffle spilled outside onto the church's parking lot, Quentin Graham says the 36-year-old pastor pointed a gun at his forehead and threatened to shoot him.
He said, "I will kill you." And I said, "Do it." And after that, that's when I just really started going off.
He threatened the church and everybody in it.
Did you pull a gun on him?
I will not comment to that. I will say that we did try to de-escalate the situation, and it got out of control to the point where we were uncomfortable.
Graham's mom regrets taking her family to the church.
I'm still trying to figure out what went wrong. I want justice. I want something done.
So at this point, both sides have filed police reports. We'll definitely keep you posted and let you know how this church controversy ends up. Tonight, there's finally peace here in this Kansas City neighborhood, thanks to Fox 4 problem solvers and this huge piece of steel.
They should please fix it.
Anthony Cordon is scratching his head. He cannot believe since at least Sunday, 5 days, this manhole just down the street from his Kansas City home has not been covered. I mean, you can walk right up to the edge. And there it is.
Oh, it looks like it's just broken.
Today I spotted the broken off rusty iron plate there at the bottom of the manhole that's about several feet deep.
Someone could definitely get hurt falling in there and possibly get stuck in there.
A spokesperson for KC Water says they had 2 barricades placed around the manhole because of repair work that's going on here. We're told a utility company owns the manhole.
No clue.
Right now, no one can tell us for sure how long the manhole cover has been off. What is clear?
That's definitely not safe at all.
The mysterious safety hazard has worried neighbors, created traffic jams, and loud bangs when drivers' tires hit it.
He just hit it.
Yeah, he did.
He just ran over the hole.
All kinds of mayhem at this intersection.
I would put that there because that guy didn't even see that hole.
Right after Jeff Shrout hopped out of his truck and placed 2 banged-up barricades back around the potentially menacing manhole, the driver of this 18-wheeler hit the barricades. An alert, nice passerby quickly picked up the one that fell, enabling the semi-driver to get by.
Looks bad. Yeah, they need a plate, steel plate over it or just a manhole cover.
At 4:38 this afternoon, I called Kansas City Water about the problem. About 30 minutes later, these guys were out here to cover the manhole.
That's good. It's much safer now.
City officials are still trying to determine what company actually owns the utility manhole. A relieved Anthony Cordon is just glad the safety hazard is no more, thanks to Fox 4.
Yeah, it took a while, but at least they patched it up now.
You happy?
Yeah.
Robert Townsend, Fox 4 News.
It's not easy.
Ryan Stokes' parents, Nairine and Clarence, take slow, heart-wrenching steps to a spot they never imagined they'd have to visit. Below the yellow cross hanging in this tree is their son's gravesite.
He wore a cross every day. He was down-to-earth, loving family. He was my baby boy. He was my only son.
Ryan had a good spirit. Ryan would help anybody.
On Saturday, July 28, 2013, Ryan left home and went to hang out in Kansas City's Power and Light District with 2 buddies.
I shook his hand and I hugged him and I said, "I love you, son." He said, "I love you, Pops."
That was the last time the parents saw their son.
I'll never forget that. It was 3 o'clock in the morning.
It happened so fast.
Kenny Ken says he and Ryan were walking past 13th and Grand when a Johnson County man accused their friend of stealing his cell phone.
It's terrifying, especially getting accused of something you didn't do. We had no parts of it.
When the cell phone owner demanded that Stokes and Ken's friend give him back his cell phone, a rowdy disturbance erupted on the street. Police arrived, doused the crowd with pepper spray, and everyone scattered. The Stokes family's attorney says the 21-year-old cell phone owner was intoxicated at the time.
He says, "I was so drunk, I don't even remember this." And then we'll see many police officers will start to run.
Cynthia Short shared a video from a witness's cell phone and dash cam video from a parked officer's car that night.
When I hit the ground, you heard the pow, pow.
24-year-old Ryan Stokes was shot in the parking lot of a zoo bar. Stokes died near his friend's car. At the time, he had a 1-year-old daughter and worked at his family's cleaners. He did not have a criminal past.
They said it was a standoff.
Yeah, it was a standoff.
Right, it was a standoff, and Ryan had a gun and wouldn't put it down.
And the police just took his life.
Turns out, Stokes had his cell phone in one hand and his friend's car keys in the other. But Ryan's parents don't believe the Jackson County Medical Examiner's autopsy. It states Stokes died from gunshot wounds to his abdomen. But autopsy photos indicate Stokes suffered entry wounds to his back.
I unzipped the bag to see if he had any bullet holes in his chest, and he didn't. He did not. He had bullet holes in his back.
They lied from the beginning.
In 2016, Naireen Stokes filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Kansas City Police Department, then Police Chief Darrell Forte, and Officer William Thompson. Ryan's parents want the Kansas City Police Department to clear their son's name, publicly admit that Stokes did not have a gun or threaten any officers, and provide long-term financial care to Stokes' now 6-year-old daughter.
I need them to change their whole narrative of Ryan and stop lying on what happened.
In September, Kansas City Police Chief Rick Smith asked the Board of Police Commissioners to take back the awards given to officers William Thompson and Tamara Jones 1 year after the deadly shooting of Stokes. Chief Smith never said why the awards were rescinded and declined to be interviewed for this story.
Sometimes there's many different sources in a story, and as the councilwoman said, there's different accounts, and we have to make sure that those are accurate, whether it be an award or an investigation.
And I would like to get the awards and burn them.
No one heard, show me your hands, put the weapon down, nobody.
5 years later,
Just something to remind me of that's my brother.
Kenny Can now has a tattoo in memory of his childhood friend.
His birthday, 10/18/88. The night it happened, 7/28/2013.
And Ryan's undaunted parents
So it's gonna be okay.
say they won't rest until they get justice for their son.
I will not give up on my son that I know they killed. I love you, Ryan.
Okay.
Always.